Hello there.
Good morning. How are you? Can you hear me?
I am doing well. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome.
I'm gonna test out showing a video real quick just to make sure that that's gonna work out a little bit later. So you'll get the benefit of having seen the first part of it twice, I guess.
All right. Not a problem.
Were you able to hear that?
I was not able to hear it, but I could see it running.
You could see it, but no sound. All
Correct.
right. Well, this is the wrong time to be trying to figure that out, isn't it?
I'm sure there's a simple explanation.
uh,
So,
yeah, that's what we. I wonder if I just take my headset out whenever I do that and shut it off, if that would do it. I'm going to try that.
okay.
I don't suppose you heard that.
No.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
No sound.
No sound still. All right. It's got to be something in my settings, I would think.
Um,
Oh, maybe this will work. I switched it. Let's see. Nothing quite as fun as.
no, sir.
Still no sound. All right.
So, I guess my question is, did you join via your cell phone and you have this PowerPoint in front of you, or did you
No,
join?
yeah, I'm on my computer, and I've got the video on the computer.
Environment for us.
Okay, great. Well, we have Dee on this morning. How are you, Dan?
Good, Daryl. Thank you. How are y'all?
Good. Looks like you had beautiful bags of arugula and other kinds of greens for sale on Saturday at the Midland Market.
Well, we
Downtown.
did.
Yeah.
The weather's cooperated somewhat. The high tunnels help.
Yeah. Good. So you have pumpkins too?
Some we do. Mainly cooking pumpkins is what Flymore Farms grows.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Glad to have you on today.
Thank you.
So from Extension, K-State Extension in Kansas, we have Rachel and Bertha. Do you all want to say hello since people may not know you?
Good morning, Daryl. I would turn my camera on, but I'm having
can start,
I'm having some computer connectivity issues, so, but I am the Southwest Regional Specialist for K-State Research and Extension in FCS, Family and Consumer Sciences. And so I support about 26 FACS agents in Southwest Kansas and a 26 county area.
Thanks, Rachel. Bertha, are you able to say hello?
Good morning, everyone. Berta Mendoza from the Southwest area as well. I work with the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program and the SNAP education program as well, mainly with minorities. And my connection is also unstable, so I hope I can at least be able to hear during this time.
Thank you for being on, Bertha. And Brittany, I don't know if everyone knows you. Would you just introduce yourself real quickly?
Sure. My name is Brittany Borden. I'm with 4B Meats out of Groover, Texas. And we essentially have a retail meat business for F1 Wagyu beef. We're also active in the community. One of the missions of 4B Meats is to make sure that all people have access to food. So when we can and when there's a need, we support our local food banks, charities, and individuals that are going through periods of food insecurity or, you know, just need a little extra help in the moment. Our focus is also on making sure our kids are taken care of and supporting our first responders and military.
Thank you, Brittany. I think we're caught up on everybody since the rest of you are on the calls, have been on really pretty much since May. Good to see you, Liza, with your potatoes behind you. Your San Luis potatoes look beautiful. Okay. All right. Well, the topic today is engaging the community in rebuilding our local food shed, which is, you know, could go all kinds of different directions. But since we want to tie this again to the work that we're all about in Southeast Colorado, but in other areas as well. So I'm going to start today, as promised in the invitation email, talking about what OC has done to engage the community in the Llano Estacado region, which is kind of the model we're using for Southeast Colorado and other places too, what we would like to do in Kansas and the Canadian River Food Shed. So I'll just go into that, give a couple of main things that we're doing, and then ask for thoughts from you all about ways we could engage the community. And then in the second half of the call, John Whitler will talk more about what OC is beginning to do now that we have this implementation grant from Colorado Health in the Ark Valley Food Shed with some of these tools. But it's all about engaging the community. So does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, well, local Llano, actually this started in 2011, so a good while ago. I've been concerned about the food shed really since 2005. We did some work in Northwest Kansas, helping to set up the High Plains Food Co-op and going to meetings back then in places like Lindsborg, Kansas. A lot of interest back then too in what Oklahoma was doing with the Oklahoma Food Co-op and how they were getting food from all over their state to like 3 places. And yeah, it's a small state, I guess. Or anyway, they had this really great model, and 90% of what was of the revenue went back into producers' hands, small producers, small food crafters. So we were really taken by that, and that really got me and others thinking about how we should all be working on rebuilding our food sheds. So I know that a lot of you have been doing this work that long or much longer. So kudos to all of you for that. So that led to like, okay, what about the Llano Estacado, which is basically from Amarillo to Midland, 200 miles by 100 miles wide. Lots of, you know, concentrated, large scale agriculture, a lot of cattle, corn, cotton, wheat. But how much of that food is, food that we know is coming from our food shed, or how about people who need nutrient dense food, fresh food, and getting that food. So that kind of led us to, okay, the first thing we're going to do to engage our community is we're going to do, 12 blogs. So I got a variety of people who I knew were doing things like keeping bees and gathering honey, or knew something about winter greens, or those kind of DIY, I would call it DIY sort of blogs. And that's how we started. I think we launched a Facebook page, and we started with those blogs first. We said, we're going to have a year of that kind of learning. I think we had a couple of field days too. It was really shoestring. There was no grant, no money. We just said, we're going to do this and see what happens. And I think we didn't really track like how many people followed the blogs. It was just like kind of public information. So we learned from that. And then we got more organized. And in 2014, we launched Local Llano with a website and a Facebook page. Okay, so that was important. And I'll say more about those digital tools in a minute. That kind of went along till 2018. We did something that I think is really the hallmark piece of engaging the community. I think one of the hallmark pieces. And it's one of the things we did this past summer for Ark Valley. And it is, we held some kind of a summit to engage local food producers and food crafters. So we didn't do this right away in Local Llano. We did more of the soft, what I'll call the soft building, digital tools, mass marketing kind of thing. But finally, 2 years ago, we got around to having this, what I call the summit. Now I would just call them local food summits. And then gathering people and getting face-to-face. So you never know if those are going to work, because people will say, well, what's in it for me? Or they'll say, understandably, I have a lot of things to do. Why should I come to this? What is it that you're going to offer? So I think like we saw with our Zoom calls that we did, I think we tried to have speakers that would help anybody. So it was our friend Judith at FARFA, who knows all about legislation for small producers. And yeah, that was really helpful. That got people's attention. We also had some kind of presentation on marketing, how small producers and food crafters could increase their markets. I think that's always a topic that will gather people together, because it's a struggle. Then last year, those summits had more to do with people who are practitioners in the food shed, like small producers who have animals. That was one kind of presentation. One presentation more about scaling up, because people always want to know that, like, okay, could I get bigger? And if I did, what would happen? I mean, what would that look like? What's the financial outlay? What kind of marketing does that entail? What kind of infrastructure would I need? And what would be the benefits? So I think we had 2 good panels on that for our in-person summits. So I would say about summits is they're great if you can have them. There's some expense to them. So we had some grant funding from Tecovas Foundation down here in Texas. Very small grant, but that's what you really need, I think, to put on some kind of public event. You can have registration fees, and that helps. But if you make it too much, it's prohibitive, of course. You got to have a venue that's easy to get to. So these summits we've had so far, the 4 down here, have been in Amarillo or Lubbock. And luckily, there's a place we can have those that it doesn't cost anything to for the venue, which is really helpful. Usually, you can get some collaborators, like I don't know, maybe your state Department of Ag. I haven't really gotten that. It's been more of Small Business Development Center. They're usually a good partner to help financially, or maybe even with some technical stuff. I'm sure people could help, could name other pieces to that that would make summits possible. So this is what John and I had worked with others to plan for Holly, Colorado in April last year. I mean, it wasn't last year. It seems like last year. It was in 2020. And it was all set to go. And it was the kind of the same thing. We had speakers lined up. We had some really good panels, and then we couldn't have it. But luckily, we turned around and did it as a Zoom. And I think it turned out great. In a way, we had more of a statewide, all over Colorado, but Southwest Kansas as well. And now here we are reaching some of our friends in Texas. So that all turned out well. I would still say at some point we really need to have in-person summits or meetings. Dee, you were one of the speakers at our summit in Lubbock last year. And so it was a little, you know, it's a couple, what, 3 hours from where you live, or 2 hours? So
2. Mhm.
2 hours. And how was that for you to attend? That was the first time to go to an in-person summit for this food shed work, I guess. What were some of the takeaways for you, or benefits, or?
Well, I really enjoyed it. Living in West Texas, it's 2 to 4 hours to go anywhere to anything. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm invited to something, some kind of event or seminar where the agenda has an opportunity to learn and teach me something about my business, or to network with other producers, whether that be cattle, chicken, bees, produce, fruit, anything like that, I always try to attend. So distance for me is not an issue. What I took away from that meeting was so much. I mean, I still reference the notes that I took because I couldn't even digest all of the different ideas and the different resources that were given at that. And that's so valuable for what we do, or for me anyway. Let me speak about me personally, is my hands are in the dirt all day long. It's so there's a big value when you get to go sit down and really just listen and absorb all the resources available. And then sometimes in the dark of the night, you go back and check out those websites or those blogs, or the networking that happened in between on breaks, and even after the meeting was over, was valuable. I still am in contact with several people that I met that day. So it was great. I enjoyed getting to present what we do on Fly My Farms to people, but even more so just seeing how other people use different resources for infrastructure on their farms or on their ranches. The legal information we got from Judith was valuable, and I still go to her website periodically. During this COVID, we've had so many liabilities on our farm and also at the farmers market that I attend, and I'm also on the board there. We've really had to reach out for some resources that apply to agriculture and what that would look like. So I wouldn't have known about her if it had not been for the event that I went to in Lubbock. Anyway, it was great.
Thanks, Dee. That really illustrates the point I'm trying to make. Again, all that was gained by an in-person meeting, and yeah, having somebody like Judith, who's with FARFA, that's Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance. I think it's a national organization. I mean, she's one of the most knowledgeable people about policy. They have a big meeting coming up the end of this month that's virtual down in San Marcos, Texas, and I'll try to send a link out to people. It's quite a gathering for small producers, small food crafters, and now you can attend it virtually for, like, I don't know, $40 for 2 days or something. But she did give a really deep dive into cottage food laws. That was like 3 hours of the conference, so it was yeah, it was a lot to digest. But this is what concerns me moving forward about Ark Valley Food Shed, or Ark Valley Food Shed work in Kansas, or anything else, and that is, I hope we have ways to meet in person, because that for all the reasons you elaborated on, Dee, we need to have these. And so if they're going to be smaller or whatever, I just think if we're going to engage the public or engage the community, there has to be opportunities for people to come together. I mean, I just had a field day yesterday, and it's just, there's a magic that happens. There's an organizational challenge always, but I'm always happy when people get together, and because then they meet each other. And I think that's what we hear from these producer summits is I really enjoyed meeting other people who are doing this kind of work. So that's a big piece of engaging the public. Another, sorry, I keep saying to engage the community. Another thing would be these digital tools, because as you said, Dee, we live far away. We're sparsely populated regions, whether it's Southeast Colorado or anywhere else in the Great Plains. So the digital media is really an effective tool, because how do you reach a far-flung audience and say to them, hey, you're part of a food shed. Why does that matter? And what does that mean? So having a Facebook page and a website, and then creating really compelling content are important tools to engaging the community. So as I said, we launched the Facebook page for Local Llano and a website in 2014, and I've kept it going every week since then. I think we had a long time where we had 3 posts a week. Now we have 5. So to do all that, you have to have a really good amount of content built up about who are the local food producers and the local food crafters, and then, you know, curate all that. And so none of this would happen. You can't really have a good digital media engagement without having, I think, interns or someone who goes to gather that content. I'm really interested in it, but I can't go to all these things. So I think along the way, since 2014, we probably had 10 interns work on Local Llano stories. Videographers, college level, mostly college level and older. People who know how to make some simple videos. And I think a lot of our videos were too long, but oh well. When you put them up on a Facebook page, they really can get to a lot of people, like 4,000 views. That's easy to do. That's not hard to do. And that really helps the producers. And then it really helps the page. It really helps the efforts, because then people say, oh, okay, these are the people. This is what makes all this. This is where this food shed stuff starts to come together. So I think we've constantly worked on our local food producers and local food crafters list. If you look on Local Llano, it's probably 80. Some drop off, new ones come. You might think, oh, we just redid it last year. Doesn't matter. Every year there are new people. There are new markets. And I don't think we found them all, but it's really, it's not like you can go get a book and read up on it. You have to have, it's like the news gathering. You have to have your own people out there going to the markets and listening, and then finding out, oh, wow, look, here's 20 new producers we didn't even know about last year, or here's some new food crafters. So I don't know if it's this way at Midland Farmers Market or Brittany. I don't know if you all see this at the Texas High Plains Food Hub. But I'm just amazed every year how many new producers become known to us, and you only find that out by having boots on the ground, somebody out there looking around. So I think that's real important. So I think John will talk about how we want to get that in place for Ark Valley Food Shed. The other thing that's been real helpful in these last 6 years is besides having summits or conferences, is having events. So we had 4 dinners for Local Llano. So what does that do? Well, it gets people out who are going to farmers markets or who feel passionate about local food, and they are willing to do like what you've seen, Dee, where you've had these farm to table dinners. They come out and they're willing to pay $100 to go to a fully locally sourced 3-course dinner, and they'll want to hear some speaker. They love to meet producers, people who are actually growing this food, or people who actually run a market, that kind of thing. So it's a great opportunity for education, and it's a way to raise some funds because it is difficult, as you all know, to fund this work, especially when you're starting out. So I would say through the dinners for Local Llano, in 3 years, we raised $25,000. Not all at once, but One time we did raise 10 at a dinner, and then we didn't get to have a dinner this year. Thank you, COVID. But we were able to pivot to something I think that has worked really well, which is go to all of our local growers and food crafters and say, would you be willing to donate, I don't know, 20 jars of pickles or this kind of thing? So we then reached out to all that list of patrons, I would call them, who would come to dinners and say, hey, this year we can't have a dinner, but would you support a harvest basket? So yeah, we did just 50, but those 50 baskets and some sponsors, we cleared $7,500 on that. So that's really going to be helpful to paying for your social media content and having a budget for interns. So those would be three really key pieces that I would share with you all as to what we would need to do to have to really engage the community in a local food shed. So I've almost talked through my whole half hour. So what are some ideas that any of you on this call would add to this list, so-called list I have started on? Liza, what kind of things have you all done? I know you've done many things, but anything you want to point out?
Well, are you asking about post-COVID or pre-COVID?
Either.
Okay, well, I mean, for years we held monthly coalition meetings that were open to everybody, and we always had an interesting speaker, usually a farmer from the region, we listened to, what the community was wanting, and then tried to bring in, somebody who exemplified that walk of life, and then talk about it and have rich discussions. It's where we created our core values. And that really built a lot of momentum and kept us very much with our thumb on the pulse of community and what was really going on, or what was needed, or just really the voice for the direction that we should go as a food advocacy organization. And then, we have an annual harvest festival. We actually tried it this year in a very strange way, because we had, we're outdoors. We have a 38-acre farm incubator, and so we invited people to sign up by car, and we set up booths that were 10 feet apart, and we had a big circle, and we thought people would stay in their car and go around. And then anyway, it kind of fell apart. People didn't want to sit in their cars, and we had a kind of a little dangerous thing with people walking in cars all mixed up, and people who reserved didn't show up, and people who saw the tents showed up and wanted to see what was going on. And so it was a little chaotic, but we did have a COVID safe. Everybody had to wear masks, and we did have a COVID safe harvest celebration with farmers selling. It was kind of a farmers market, but also educational. We asked every farmer to teach something, and so one person would be talking about fermenting a vegetable. Another person, Cooking Matters, was talking about how to make a drink from fruit juice and bubbly water that's healthier. And just, we had another woman making fiber out of beet greens, and beautiful paper out of beet greens and stuff from our farm. I'm going to show it to you. It's so gorgeous.
You wonder how that would stand up. The beet greens, they'll wilt.
So she's a fiber artist, and she went through the whole process. But this is the paper that she made, if you can see it. So this is made from vegetables from our farm. And sorry, I have a mirror image, so it goes the opposite way I want it to. But anyway, it's a gorgeous paper, and she did a paper making workshop just using greens from the vegetables from the farmers, just a few piles away. And then we had we have work days on the farm where we get the community out there, and like we made compost the other day. And I actually I've been the lamest compost maker my whole life, and actually I feel like when you learn, you do it hands-on. Like there was a pile of manure, a pile of vegetable refuse, a pile of leaves, and a pile of soil, and we just like mixed them all together and added water and made this soup. I'm like, okay, this is how I learned. This is like making the most nutritious soup in the world, only it's anyway, and we had just a wonderful time, but everybody was masked up, and, we didn't advertise it widely. So, we ended up with smaller groups and that kind of thing. But, education has always been something we just love to do with community members, teaching, how to build an Orno, how to build a hoop house, how to build a cold frame, how to build a, and people just, really, I feel people yearn for those skills back. Like you were talking about do it yourself, how you reached out to the do it yourself bees and beekeepers and such. And people just crave to know how to do that. There just isn't any outlets for it. So I feel like that's a really great way too. But
So
we're fumbling around.
All those things happen at your farm, the monthly coalition meetings
Well, those were pre-COVID. We don't do those anymore. And
okay.
we don't do those as much anymore. We do them via Zoom. They're not the same. Because we broke bread together, and that was the most important part, was like everybody cooked and we brought our food together, and now we're all sitting there like this, which is better than nothing. I'm so happy to see all your faces, but it's not the same as like a big juicy potluck.
You've given us a lot to think about. Those are good examples. How about Brittany? Do you all do anything with? I think you all do a farm to table, right?
We do when we're able to. And what's kind of unique to our situation is that one of the ladies here has started a coffee shop, but in conjunction with that, she sells basically lunch boxes full of locally grown produce. And so she and meats, and she markets those vendors that way. One thing that comes to mind as being part of the Texas Agri Women's Association, we're doing a farm to market table, and so that's a good opportunity for local producers to support an organization that's doing wanting to focus on ag and feature ag in such a way that's meaningful. And so teaming up with groups and organizations like that could be helpful for our local food shed folks. I love the ideas that were just presented about the hands-on. Another option is having local producers team up together. So for instance, Crabtree Farms over in Stratford, they grow vegetables, and we're going to be doing a vegetable and meat weekly delivery box subscription type thing, and just building those relationships to use synergy and share customer bases and promote one another. That's where we're finding the most opportunity, and that's across the board. Small mom and pop shops that want to set themselves apart, they look to local producers like us to either do a pop-up shop or carry our products, and then educate people on how their products and our products complement one another and whatnot like that. So we've seen a lot of success in those areas.
Okay, that's helpful. How about conferences? Do you attend any conferences or summits that help you to engage, to do your work in to gather local producers or the interested public for food shed kind of stuff?
We have not. Suzanne Bell Snyder has really been a driving force. She herself is not a producer, but she, like I said, she's the one that started the coffee shop and promotes. And that's been a relatively new concept, at least in Hansford County. And so we have not gotten into the point where a symposium has been formatted or coordinated, nor online conferences. However, I can easily see that being an option, especially as more people want to shop local and buy local. it's just not been something that any of us have had time to put together. You know, looking around at our farmer market, I would say 90% of us all have full-time jobs, and what we do with our meat and homestead items is certainly a side gig for most, if not all of us. And that being said, you know, dedicating the time to organize and coordinate a symposium or some function like that can be a little time consuming, more so than anyone's able to commit, and at present at least.
Yeah, those are all good points. And stay tuned. Hopefully in the spring we'll have one in Borger.
Hey,
If,
that's great.
We're getting
That's
a little
great.
funding together, hopefully to launch Canadian River Food Shed. So
Awesome.
the things you point out, I think, resonate with everybody probably on the call. Jess, what kind of things do you see all over Colorado that would speak into this engaging of community, you or Fernando? Or both.
We'll talk at the same time and in sync. Just from our point of view with what we've been doing, the LOPROCO, Local Procurement Colorado workshops, when we launched that model back in 2019, and Liza attended like one of our very first pilot workshops, people really enjoy that opportunity to come together and learn. And just to some of the things that Dee was speaking to, I was furiously writing them down, because that is what we're trying to get to and really hone in on when we are having these workshops and these regional trainings, is to bring people together so that they are able to walk away with tidbits of information that they can reference later, connections, resources, all of that, and have those like middle of the night moments where they wake up and they're like, oh, like that's a really good idea, and I know who I can connect to and reach out to be able to follow up with. So we've really have taken 2020, because our plan is to always be doing these workshops every single fall in different regions around the state. But with the pandemic, obviously we've shifted our model a little bit, and we actually used this year as almost a grace period of sorts, where we have the opportunity to slow down, assess our workshop model, what we've started, and really identify how we can improve upon it and expand it to make it really continuously targeted to the region and the people who we want to have there. So we've made a lot of good efforts, and one of the biggest things that you all were speaking to is finding funding to be able to support these workshops and really identify what the best lever is to pull to be able to bring that in. So we've been working really hard over the last couple of months to look at developing sponsorship packets that are targeted to these regions, so that we're actually bringing in more of that community investment to put these workshops on, and actually ultimately with that goal of having more of a longer term viewpoint from the community, because they are invested in these workshops and the overall goal of creating, you know, just strong food systems and local food sheds. So that's where we're going. We've moved from a 1 8-hour intensive day to now like a 3-part workshop series that will be happening over the course of a year. So we're really just building it out, and that's our next steps. Looking towards 2021, the fall, with hopes that we can all be back in person. And until then, we're looking at developing virtual content and having monthly kind of calls just like this with school food service directors and cooks and other people within regions that are interested in supporting local and getting that into their schools and institutions.
Thanks,
I'm not sure
Jess.
if Beth has anything to add.
Yes, that gets at it, I think. You said a lot of things that we can follow up. Fernando, do you want to follow up on that?
Just really the only thing that I think it's been said already and stressed, that the in-person meetings, workshops, I mean, they are so crucial. We just had a Knife Skills, and we had over 40 people, and it was great. People loved it. They learned. They seemed to be engaged, but it is so different than to be able to have that connection. And I don't know, we're doing everything we can to perfection our workshops and our program, but I can't wait to get out and see people face to face again. And this sucks. I don't like it, but we're gonna get through it. And yeah, I can't wait to go back to normal.
Yeah. Did you say that workshop was on knife techniques?
Yes, we did a knife skills. It was a 2-part series. We started with the basics, how to hold the knife, how to move it, and all that. And then the following week, we cut some vegetable. We cut vegetables in both sessions, but it was a really good. I mean, we know we can do it over the internet now through Zoom, and we did 40 people with only 2 chefs, Jess and I. So
Wow.
I mean, this is something we learned that before we only used to do like 1 chef for 5 participants, but now because everybody's at home, we're able to do a lot more people. But I don't know, like I still I like a teacher in front of me when I'm learning something new and I'm taking notes, learning. It's just so different. So again,
Yeah.
I'll shut up. Can't wait to 2021. We can go back to in-person stuff.
Okay. These are all really good points. One summary I would take it is that when to engage the community, we need, whether it's a summit or a workshop, we need like really good education piece, something they'll be interested in, something that'll be helpful, but always to marry that or connect that with, like what you were talking about, Liza, good hands-on opportunities to learn, or learning from hands-on operators. I think that you need the big picture and you need that down on the ground, to oversimplifying it. But to me, those seem to, people really get a lot out of that. And that energizes the producers and crafters to go out and keep going, because if they don't keep going, it's going to be hard to have a food shed. And I think that the public is really interested in this, as they would be interested in how to hold the knife correctly. Fernando, I would be. I don't think I've been doing it right, so I gotta get better at that. Do you all have that a link you can send us on that? Do you have it recorded?
We actually just made like a 35-minute video that is Chef Az doing his whole knife skills spiel. So I'll share it with you all so you
Okay.
can
Fun.
Good. All right.
practice.
We need to pick up some tips on that for sure. Okay, well, I think that that is really good, what you all have talked about. And we don't have to get all into the digital stuff today because we're going to have another call next month. But I think this is really important because we now have the funding to start rolling this out for Southeast Colorado for the Ark Valley Food Shed. And so we want to do the best we can with that and use the resources well. Also, for you all in other food sheds, I think this gives us hope of how we'll do that there. So D, some point we're going to roll out a Permian Basin food shed kind of project. And as I mentioned there to Brittany, I think we're really close to getting a little bit of funding to get a couple of these summits going for Canadian River food shed, which would take, Clayton, New Mexico, all the way over to like Anoka, Oklahoma. But, everybody along the Canadian. So, so this is valuable, and it's going to be ongoing work, like getting into Southwest Kansas as well and working on the food shed there. But to kind of see where we're going to go next with the Ark Valley Food Shed, John, could you speak to that and entertain any discussion or questions?
Sure. And first, I wanted to just draw your attention to Bertha's information there in the chat, and thank you for adding that in there, Bertha.
Yeah.
I'm curious, both the timing, the normal timing of the annual conference that you referred to there, and then what sort of how big are the regional areas that are covered in the regional meetings?
I hope I can stay connected. Yes, we usually the attendance is about, I'll say 150 people for the annual conference, and it's usually in November. I haven't checked the time for this year. I suppose it's going to be virtual this year, but I haven't really checked. But the regional meetings, we They usually have one on each corner of the state. For the last 2 years, it has been in Garden City, and we have local producers from all Southwest Kansas, and then people from the community. And usually those have a meal that has been prepared by some of the producers and includes only local food grown in that area. But it's a really good conference, and it's usually in Wichita every year for the main conference. But like I said, scientists from different parts of the world, the United States, come to present, and also local food producers. I have been invited to speak about my experience with the communities, the migrant communities in Southwest Kansas for the past, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I really recommend that. And it's not expensive to attend. The registration is usually $100, $120, but includes the meal as well. I don't have the means right now to locate that, but as soon as I have it, I will send you the link for that, for the information. Hopefully we can attend this year as well.
John, can I mention real quick another project that we've done recently in Kansas? Bertha and I are both based out of Garden City, so we're both having connectivity issues this morning. But we have a local foods transdisciplinary team, and KSRE and Extension is all about education. And so when COVID hit and everybody was running for toilet paper and eggs and beef, and there was a run on everything, our local foods put together a Homesteading 911 10-episode web series, and it dealt with issues ranging from starting a garden, how to choose a space, chickens for meat and eggs. People were getting their chickens, and even food preservation, like freezing, the cost of gardening, how to buy meat from a farm, gardening with the kids, and what's in season, and when Kansas farmers markets, and how to can. Those were just some of the basics. But we saw that people were starting to grow their own gardens, get chickens for eggs, and so our local foods teams were like, here's what we can do to educate people, and have like a little Q&A of, it was scripted, so an extension specialist would be the one asking the questions, and then another extension person who had expertise in that area would answer back. I'll find the link to that. It's on our, I believe, our extension YouTube page, and y'all can look at those at your leisure. But I just wanted to mention that as a possible education idea that seemed, we had a lot of success with it here, posting it through social media and the different platforms.
Thank you. I think, yeah, that's excellent. And if you find that link and can share it with Daryl, we'll certainly share it out to everybody.
Okay.
Would love to take a peek at it. And same thing for the for Fez and his knives. We'll get everybody some good resources. I think that you were promised to see a couple of our interns this morning. I think we were shared out with everybody that was our plan. Yesterday, I got an email in the day that was kind of a panicked. They changed our SAT testing to tomorrow morning, and we cannot join you for that Zoom call. And so that was a bit of a bummer. We have a couple of young ladies that are working on this project with us, and had scheduled to take some time out of class this morning just to join us and introduce themselves. They made a quick little video yesterday right after school and gave it to me to share with you guys. So I tried it at the very beginning, and I was playing it from the jump drive that they gave me, and I could hear audio, but it wasn't showing up on Zoom. So I'm gonna, while Daryl was talking on the front end, I uploaded it to YouTube real quick, and so hopefully I can share my screen from there and play it, and you'll hear the audio. If not, I'll just you'll at least get to see the faces of the young ladies, and then I'll kind of talk a little bit about what they were going to talk about this morning. But we'll see if this works.
Here I thought John was giving us undivided attention.
Is that what you thought? You guys got the audio on that or not?
No,
No.
Nope. All right. Well, I am not exactly sure. I think it must have to do with my my computer's not sharing the audio out. But
Clicking on that speaker icon.
what's
at the
that?
You could try clicking on the speaker icon at the bottom and see if it doesn't bring it on.
I will give that a try, but I could hear everything that they were saying just fine. So I think it's not that it's somehow I'm not sharing out the audio that's coming through the speaker. So
Up at the top, there's should be on a setting where you're recording, and if you drop down, it gives, and I can't remember the exact wording, but it talks about different audio types for the video. That's probably clear as mud.
where I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, up at the top, there should be like another little menu that can drop down.
Okay, let's see here. I've got some options, but I think I tried all of those options whenever I was on earlier trying to get it to work. So I think I'll maybe just skip that part. You'll miss out on hearing them, but I can tell you what they said, and then we'll see if we can get them on next time as we get into this project a little bit further. But so the two of them, that's Raylan and Aaliyah, and they are working on a couple of different things. First of all, just building profiles of local producers to be able to share your story or the story of the producers of the area, and even anyone who's producing something that's unique. One of the things that we learned when we were talking with producers in the spring, as we kind of went through our planning process, was that there are some things that we grow in our greenhouses that the public doesn't know what to do with. And you grow this amazing vegetable and you're so proud of it, and somebody looks at the name and they can't pronounce it, and they've never seen or heard of it before, and it kind of is too intimidating then to take that home and do something with it. And so one of the things that was mentioned by a couple of different producers was, giving some of those educational pieces about the produce itself. It's not always about talking about the producer. Sometimes it's educating people about the produce. And so these young ladies are going to be on the very front end, been building a list of the producers from the region. And we've got a website that is under development now that we're hoping we can launch in January for the Arkansas Valley Food Shed. And on that website, there'll be links to local producers that we've been able to connect with. And I think I actually have. I'm gonna share quickly. So this is from the Local Llano project that Daryl was talking about earlier. There's a portion of that page that is local producers, and you can sort by what you're looking for or by the region that you live in and want to buy in. But then out of this list, there is there's these different lists. And when you click on that, that particular one, they've got set up to take directly to the producer's Facebook page. And so there'll be the option, the way that we're kind of building it out right now, there'll be a little bit more information when you click to that profile. that would be the story of that operation, the some pictures from their farm, and then you'd be able to link out to those that have their own website, would link directly out to their website, links to the social media of the producer, as well as however it is that that producer wants to be contacted. All of that information would be available on that page as well. And so that's kind of step one of what they're putting together, is just the basic information about what's being grown, who's growing it, and getting all of the links to get people connected with the producer. And then on top of that, anybody who would like, we're scheduling up for them to come out and take some video and do an interview on the farm. And Aaliyah is specifically spending a lot of time on video production. And so she's worked on a couple of different videos for GrowSeco that are outside of the food producers. But the idea would be any producer who wants a video, we'd like to get a short 2 to 3 minute video that just features that producer and whatever they want to kind of showcase from their farm, tell the story about what's unique about their farm. And then we'll be sharing, all of these different profiles, the videos, on our Facebook page, and really building an audience that way. One of the things that you mentioned, Brittany, was 90%. I think that's pretty close to what we've seen in the other videos or the other interviews that we've done, and information we've gathered, is a large percentage of local food producers have off-farm jobs too. And so time, the capacity to do social media, and everything else that they have to stay on top of is really an overwhelming task. And so we'll be sharing and really building that audience for all of the producers in the food shed, with then connecting people out to those individual pages, to those individual producers. And of course, the videos would be for the producer to share within their network as well. It's not something that we want to hold on too tight to. So that's what the girls were going to talk about this morning, what they're already working on. Already sent out some emails and got a couple of times scheduled to do interviews and start getting some videos put together. But what they've also got is a form, and I know that none of you are specifically in the 6 counties of Southeast Colorado that they're working in this morning, but we certainly would encourage you to share the form if you know anybody that's in that 6 county region. And then for those producers that, Brittany, that Daryl mentioned, that we will be in Borger hopefully in the spring. I think it would be fine to go ahead and any of the producers there to fill out the form as well. We just would want to make sure that we knew where in the description, there's a couple of boxes we wanted the interns to be able to know the geography that you're in as they fill that out. But it's basic information, really just kind of contact information so they can get back in touch with you. Some basic information about what you grow, and I guess I think it asks for your website URL, your Facebook URL, so that they can start gathering and putting together information. And then, we're not going to post anything without working collaboratively with the producer, but just trying to begin gathering that information so we can tell the story of who's here locally and what they're doing. And I think it's it's something that we've talked about quite a bit over the last year, that there are producers, there's the public, and then there's these different agencies and nonprofits that are also in the space. And really our vision and hope is to connect all three of those different pieces and be able to, it's just as important for producers to be connected to the agencies as it is for them to be connected to the consumers. And it's just as important for the consumers to, to learn about what's available and who's available to help them out locally, as it is for them to connect with the agencies as well. So this piece is specifically trying to help take down barriers that might exist between the public and the producers themselves. So
All right, John.
any questions? Yeah.
We better leave it at that because we're down to our last couple minutes. But I think that gives you some idea of how we're trying to start out and roll forward. Next month, I'm concerned that the second Wednesday, because we had said the second Wednesday, it's Veterans Day, 11th of November. I'm wondering if that cause any problems for people to get on next month, or should we look at moving to possibly November 18th, the third Wednesday morning? Do you all have any strong, are you good on the 11th of November? Okay, well, we'll just leave it there then, same time. But I think I would just say, anybody have any points? Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. So what would we talk about next month? Well, I think we got some really good ideas about engaging the community. So I would like next month that we kind of continue this. As we said, this would be 2 parts. So the part next time would be talking about these kind of conferences we want to have, because potentially OC is going to have to put together like six conferences, 2 in Texas, maybe 3 in Colorado. And so it would be really interesting to talk to all of you about, okay, what should this conference look like? Because it would be similar no matter where we do it, but different speakers, but what would be the topics? And then I hope we can do it in person, but if we can't, how would it work virtually and so on? Would that be worth your time next month?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, because I can think there's some really good points that were raised today, and that I would like to see, like, okay, well, how would we make that into something that would be valuable to producers, local food crafters, and interested public? Does that sound good to you, Brittany?
I think that's a great idea. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Okay.
Before we get off, is there any way that form can be emailed with the recording possibly? I'm on my iPhone and it's a little problematic.
Sure, we can make sure that goes out in the link, right,
Perfect.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Okay, good. So Rachel, we may not get to have a conference or workshop in Southwest Kansas, but it'll be close to you all. So I hope you'll be on next month as well if that date works for you.
The 11th and 18th will not work for me. Maybe Bertha will be able to be here. I have a training all day on the 11th, and we start Medicare open enrollment tomorrow, and I am a senior health insurance provider counselor. So the 18th, I will be in another county doing one-on-one counseling all day, but
Okay.
I'll definitely make sure Bertha is aware and maybe she can represent us.
Okay, that sounds great.
And I put the link for that,
Yes,
the YouTube series in the chat box as well.
we'll make sure that gets out to everybody when the link comes out in a couple of days. It'll be in the link.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you all.
And your great information and experiences shared. I think it really helps, and we'll look forward to talking to everyone next month.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.
Good to see you guys.